All right, let's dive right into this explainer and uncover the hidden psychological forces that dictate how languages are actually taught in a classroom. Because, when we walk into a language class, we really only see the surface. We see the textbooks, the whiteboards, the vocabulary quizzes, but beneath all of that is this fascinating, incredibly complex web of deeply ingrained beliefs and experiences that literally controls a teacher's every move. Today, we're exploring a compelling study by Siamak Rahimi that exposes exactly what goes on inside the secret mind of the language classroom.
Here's our agenda for today. 1. Inside the teacher's mind. 2. The vocabulary learning puzzle. 3. 4 teachers, 4 styles. 4. The roots of teaching. And 5. Reflecting on classroom practice.
Section 1. Inside the teacher's mind. Uncovering hidden beliefs. To begin our journey, we really have to look beneath the surface of everyday classroom activities. Seriously, take a second and think back. How were you taught a second language? Did your teacher make you memorize endless lists of words? Did they play games with you? Maybe they totally refused to speak your native language. We often assume teachers just, follow whatever the modern textbook tells them to do, but the reality is actually deeply tied to their personal histories. The methods they choose are rarely just about the curriculum. They're a direct reflection of their own minds.
So the crucial point here is that every vocabulary quiz or grammar drill is actually just the tip of an iceberg, supported by something called teacher cognition. Basically, teacher cognition is a teacher's mental life. It's a multidimensional concept that encompasses everything they think, believe, or assume about their profession. It's not just about knowing the subject matter. Actually, scratch that. It's way deeper than that. It is a massive, complex internal database built over a lifetime that secretly governs every split-second decision they make at the front of the room. And Borg's 1997 framework brilliantly illustrates how a teacher's early schooling, their professional coursework, and contextual factors all interact to shape what actually happens in their classroom. Notice how schooling, the extensive experience teachers had when they were just kids sitting at a desk themselves, feeds directly into their cognition. It even shapes how they perceive their formal professional coursework. All of this mental architecture then filters down into classroom practice, which is further pushed and pulled by immediate contextual factors like the school's rules or even the student's behavior. It's a constant dynamic loop.
Section 2. The vocabulary learning puzzle. A complex puzzle. Let's see how this broader cognition applies to the often neglected realm of vocabulary teaching. While grammar usually steals the spotlight in language research, how a teacher decides to construct a brand new word inside your brain is actually an incredibly complex psycholinguistic puzzle.
Before a teacher can even teach a word, we have to understand that every single lexical entry is split into 2 distinct psychological components, the lemma and the lexeme. Think of a word as kind of like a 2-sided coin in your brain. The lemma holds the meaning and the grammar. It's the core concept of the word. The lexeme, on the other hand, holds the physical shell, how it's spelled and how it sounds. When a teacher introduces new vocabulary, they aren't just giving you a simple translation. They are tasked with building both sides of this coin in your memory.
Now, what's really interesting about this adaptation of Levalt's model is how it visualizes the intersection of semantics, syntax, morphology, and phonology within our brains. This shows the true architecture of a single word. To truly know a word, a learner has to successfully map the meaning and grammatical rules of the lemma onto the shape and sound of the lexeme. For native speakers, this happens entirely naturally through massive exposure, but in a language classroom, that input is severely limited.
This sequence shows how second language learners evolve from initially just memorizing spelling and pronunciation to fully integrating the word's deeper meaning over time. Look at how Jiang's model maps this out. In the first formal stage on the left, learners mostly focus on the L2 phonology and orthography, the spelling and sound, because, they just don't have the rich context yet. Then, in the middle stage, they rely heavily on their native language, effectively copying their L1 semantics and syntax onto the new L2 word. It's only in the final integration stage on the right that the new word stands on its own, with all aspects fully established. The way a teacher approaches this delicate, multi-stage process tells us absolutely everything about their specific teacher cognition.
Section 3. 4 teachers, 4 styles. 4 unique approaches. Okay, let's ground all this heavy psycholinguistic theory by looking at a real-world case study. Siamak Rahimi interviewed 4 highly experienced educators, all holding master's degrees and all teaching at the exact same well-known language institute in Iran.
despite all teaching at the exact same institute under the exact same curriculum and rules, their approaches to teaching vocabulary couldn't be more vastly different. We've got Hamid, Davoud, Mohsen, and Mathi, each with between 5 and 18 years of experience. But as we look closer at how they handle that complex lemma and lexeme puzzle we just talked about, we're going to see that their inner mental lives dictate wildly different classroom realities.
Let's start with Hamid. Hamid, our veteran teacher of 18 years, loves making vocabulary a game of root words. He notices his students' eyes just glitter when they finally crack the code. He teaches vocabulary incidentally, meaning he mostly deals with words as they naturally come up in class. If a student struggles, he immediately jumps to root explanations. For instance, to teach the word dictate, he'll bring up known words like dictionary or predict to isolate that suffix dict. But what's really fascinating here is that Hamid completely attributes this highly specific analytical style not to the institute's training, but to the exact way he was taught when he was a university student himself. Davoud, on the other hand, totally shuns spoon-feeding. Instead, he constantly adapts his techniques on the fly, directly mirroring the inspiring teacher he had as a youth. Davoud has 11 years of experience, and his cognition is highly contextual. He might use synonyms one day and strange mother tongue comparisons the next, depending entirely on the student's immediate competency. In fact, Davoud's entire versatile teaching philosophy is a direct homage to the joyful, detailed vocabulary lessons he experienced as a learner. His past completely dictates his present.
Then we have Mohsen. Mohsen represents the meticulous planner. He heavily integrates his vocabulary lessons with broader reading tasks to ensure the new words actually stick. With 5 years of experience, Mohsen doesn't just wing it, he checks his own pronunciation before every single class. He carefully builds semantic links by starting with words the students already know. And wonderfully, he doesn't just rely on written tests to check for understanding, he relies on the immediate, visual feedback of his students' facial expressions. So his cognition is driven by the dynamic reality of classroom practice.
Finally, we have Mahdi. He's the strict disciplinarian who leans heavily on his formal teacher training courses, preferring planned methodology and input floods over incidental learning. While Hamid loved incidental teaching, Mahdi strictly follows the pre-planned syllabus. He uses a technique called input flooding. If the word is talkative, he bombards the students with simple sentences, "My friend is a talkative guy, she's too talkative." He is also terrified of students forming bad habits, believing that if they hear a wrong pronunciation first, it becomes fossilized in their brains forever. Now, uniquely among the four, Mahdi credits his rigid style entirely to his formal teacher training courses, not his childhood teachers.
Section 4. The Roots of Teaching, where styles originate. Let's dive a bit deeper into why these four professionals, given the exact same curriculum and teaching in the exact same building, act so differently when a student asks what a word means.
The answer lies in the apprenticeship of observation, proving that teachers often teach exactly the way they themselves were taught. So the absolute crucial point here is that before a teacher ever takes a single pedagogy class, they have already undergone thousands of hours of observation just by sitting at a desk as a student. Lordy coined this term back in 1975, and it perfectly explains Hamid and Davoud. Their teaching styles aren't necessarily born from modern psycholinguistic textbook, they are lingering echoes of the teachers who inspired them decades ago. Their cognition was firmly set before their careers even began.
Section 5. Reflecting on classroom practice, improving education. So how do we use this fascinating data to actually improve language education moving forward? We can't just leave teacher cognition in the shadows, right? By evaluating a teacher's cognition against these 5 criteria, educators can really reflect on their subconscious habits and make their classroom practices much more purposeful. Because it isn't about proving which teacher is right or wrong. It's about self-awareness. Teachers need to ask themselves, are my reasons clear? Am I consistent? Can I cite actual evidence for why I teach this way, or am I just doing it because my 8th grade teacher did it? By raising awareness of the hidden factors that shape their mental lives, teachers can become much more willing to consider alternative practices and ultimately dramatically improve how their students learn.
And that leaves us with a profound question about our own biases and the true origins of how we absorb new information. The next time you sit in a classroom or attend a lecture or even watch an explainer like this one, look closely at the person presenting the information. You aren't just receiving objective facts, you are interacting with their entire history. Are the methods guiding your learning today dictated by modern science, or just the lingering shadows of your teacher's own past classrooms? Definitely something to think about next time you learn a new word.